of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Well, I'm delighted to say you're very welcome to a special Race Hour weekend preview. We're back to have a look at the terrestrial TV races over the 3 days that is the magic of the Cheltenham November meeting. And for 3 days, we need 3 great pundits. I'm your host, Tom Lee, as ever. And joining me, well, I've got to start with her first because there were bookmakers requiring stretchers, oxygen, and smelling salts, I think, after her performance last week. Welcome back, Tanya, the sniper Stevenson. Tanya, how do you do it? 25-1, Al dancing into the betting ring and collecting. Well done. Welcome back.
Yeah, well, I'm really going for it this week, Tom. I've got a forecast in one of the races. There you go.
Never knowingly
I'm not
undersold.
shirking from anything.
Which of the 12 will it be? All will be revealed very soon. But revealing now the second of our lineup this week amongst the pundits. Welcome back. First Race Hour preview of the winter for Cass. Stephen Cass. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Tom. What a thrill. One of the best weekends of the year and 2 broadcasting greats, yourself and Tanya. Tanya's getting greedy there already. She's had one big win and she's going shooting the lights out this weekend.
Well,
but great to be on and great to be on with Joe as well. I haven't been on with Joe before, so really, really excited. Always a brilliant weekend.
Well, Cass, greed is good, especially where this man is concerned, because he loves hoovering up the winners at nice prices. It is on loan, I'm going to say, from Get Your Tips Out on International Soccer Weekend. Joe Norris, welcome back.
Yeah, great to be back. I managed to survive week 1. I think you could say I'm probably going to come on a bit for the run. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to give a better nap than I did last week. But yeah, it wasn't a bad start, so onwards and upwards.
Well, you did say that the Nichols horses would start winning. They duly did. Onwards and upwards, folks, because we've got 3 days to plough through. In conjunction, I will say, with our sponsors. They are Betfred and also Gambling.com. And where Betfred are concerned, don't be shy in checking out the Race Hour Twitter feed, the X feed, whatever you want to call it nowadays. But Betfred generously boosting some of our pundits' naps. That Twitter handle, if you don't already follow, you should be doing so. It is at @_race hour. And thanks again to our sponsors, Betfred and Gambling.com. Right, guys, this is where the serious business begins. 3 days, 4 races each day. Friday is when the crowds will be joyously bouncing through those Cheltenham turnstiles. And the first of the TV races, well, only small fields because they're on the old course. They've been watering. Amazingly, I read a stat this week, only 2 millimetres of rain since the last meeting back in October. Joe, I'll start with you, if I may. Just the 4 of them for this staying novice chase at 1:45 on Friday.
Yeah, so this is a fascinating race. I'm really keen on Springwell Bay here. Now, we've got to talk about the Chepstow win. Obviously, Cuthbert Dibble was setting a really good gallop that day. Sadly went wrong and was pulled up. Now, Springwell Bay looks a bit taken out of his depth in the early stages, just sort of jumped the first slow and just took a bit of time to warm up. But I was really impressed with how he went through the race. He pulled quite hard for much of the race, so to keep on as well as he did, I thought was quite impressive. John Joe obviously got interviewed after and said that he thought the horse would come on quite a lot. Doesn't take much work at home, so I think it will step forward. Obviously, the form got a boost. We saw Boombourne come out and win the Rising Stars at Wincanton, which was quite a nice performance. I think he's going to improve going up in trip again. They always thought a lot of him over hurdles. I think he could be an even better chaser. I was really impressed with the last 2 jumps at pace was when he put in his 2 best jumps of the race. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this horse. It's not going to be an easy task, but at the prices, I definitely prefer him to Highland. I think he's a good bet here.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. So just a small field there. Cass, if I may, I'm going to bounce over to you for the second live race on the Friday. It's the recited Schlur Chase. Of course, that used to be a Sunday treat. They now run it on the Friday. The Grade 2, is it as simple as the betting would suggest? Is it just a repeat of last year? Are we going to see a 1-2 identical to what we what we witnessed in 2023?
The answer is yes if John Bond gives his running, but I don't think it's that simple, Tom, and I wouldn't like to be taken 2-5 to find out either. I mean, the two big things, right? There's John Bond at Cheltenham. He's only ever been beaten 3 times, all at Cheltenham, and he jumped really sticky. No, he was good in this last year, and then he jumped sticky in the rearranged the Victor Chandler chase, or the Clarence House, the rearranged Clarence House when Elixir did not beat him. But all his poor performances have come at Cheltenham. At the same time, if he can't beat a 10-year-old Edward Stone now at this stage, geez, there's no chasers in England at all if John Bond can't do that. So I do expect him to win. Won't be backing him, but I just would be very wary. I mentioned this on the review pod during the week. I'd be really wary of Nicky Henderson's form. He's had, even since we were on the podcast on Monday, he's had 4 more runners. One of them won, but a couple of them ran really bad. I mean, one of them was 15-8 or 64 or 11-8 something, pulled up after 4 hurdles. Henderson is operating at an 11% strike rate in November. Few runners than normal, but he is at his worst strike rate since he's only ever operated once below 20%. That was in 2007. This is going back this century. I had to look at all of them. He's on his worst strike rate in November in about 20, 30 years. And I think there's still question marks over the Henderson yard and that issue that he had around Cheltenham. So I would just be treading very carefully about including him or bothering to include him in your multiples. He's a sketchy jumper. Questions over Nicky's yard. I wouldn't like to be getting involved.
Fantastic analysis. Thank you, Cass. Tanya, I'm going to come to you for the first time on this weekend preview to talk about the cross-country race. That's in the 2:55 slot on Friday. Henderson is represented, and with one of those at the front of the market, Betfred, as we're recording, offers 7-2 about Mr. Coffee in a race where Conflated for Ireland for Gordon Elliott is just favourite by a whisker at 100-30 in the current prices with Betfred. How's he going to take to these fences? We know he's high grade over the regulation obstacles. Conflated a conversion, or is there something lurking at bigger prices?
He's a class act. Even when he's on one, he's a total class act, and he'll have £7 out of the saddle from a very able performer. But of course, we know the likes of Tiger Roll and Delta Work have come to this race and have been beaten. We appreciate that Conflated may be taking their route, and we have to respect the fact that Gordon Elliott's won the equivalent Cheltenham Festival race on 5 occasions, but that doesn't really apply to this race. And this contest, when it is indeed run at this time of the year, sometimes it raced in January. Obviously, Back on the Lash will be a big outsider here, but he's won the race twice. I look into this race, yes, you mentioned, is there some outsiders there we should take note of? Well, let's go to France, for example, and Felix de Giles takes the mount on Sweet David, who's had quite a few of his races over cross-country fences. Obviously, we've got a line into his form with Roy Marge, who he was beaten by recently, but we've got to really hone in on the jockey, Felix de Giles, who won this over this course before, albeit back in 2017, and the trainer won the Cleve Hurdle in 2023. So he's probably, when he came over, had an eye on the cross-country race and thought, I'll bring something over. This is Sweet David. However, if you want something a really fair price, Seamus Mullins may not have had a winner at Cheltenham since 2003 when See You Sometime won here in April, but he hasn't had that many runners, and what he does run here, runs with a point. Now, Tommy Bowe loves a national, whether it be a Durham National or a Southern National, which he won this time last year. He wasn't here, he was at Fontwell on the Sunday. So he loves this time of the year. And he is durable and he loves every fence, and he hardly ever gets out the frame. And we know that Michael Nolan loves to go around these fences as well. He's finished second and he's had a few good places. So I'm going to go for an each way on Tommy Bowe this race and be very respectful of the French raider. But it's not sort of races you dip into at all, the cross-country races. They're a means to an end. And I think that obviously Sweet Davis off a very low weight, and Tommy Bowe, who runs exceptionally well at any time of the year, but particularly now, are the ones to take against it.
And rounding off the terrestrial TV action for Friday, more Grade 2 action It's an Albert Bartlett novices hurdle. A couple of handy types in here, Joe Norris.
Yeah, I think this looks a straight shootout between the top two in the betting. I'm definitely in the Potter's Charm camp. To me, he just looks an out-and-out stayer. I thought the way he came out of Sam Twist and Davies' hands at the last at Worcester, he was still full of running. He then went on to win at Cheltenham last time. Now, you can question the form somewhat. Manila 6, I don't know if that horse is up to particularly much, but I think Potter's Charm still looks very novice-y. He's going to improve a lot, and I think he'll love the step up in trip, and I think he's the one to be on. He's been well found in the market now, 2-1 into sort of 11-10. But yeah, I think they're finishing bet in order here.
Say no more. That rounds off Friday. 4 terrestrial races. 4 more to come on a very big day's horse racing on Saturday. Cheltenham will be packed. I think everyone's rightly excited for what lies in store. The first of the TV action is at 1:45. It is the Grade 2 Arkle trial. Cass, I'm going to switch to you, please, to unravel this one.
Yeah, it's a lovely looking little race. I was really impressed with Lada Sud when he won at Stratford on Chase debut. Like, he jumped absolutely impeccably, except one down the back, which he banked. I love novices when they make their Chase debut, if they make one mistake and they learn, because his fencing was low. He jumped beautifully. He made one mistake, learned from it, perfect all the way around. You love a skeleton horse when they're good at gunning from the front. Harry can be a bit too quick to do it sometimes, but it suits this fella's style of going. He's a little bit like Grey Dawning, but over a shorter trip. Going from the front, low style over his fences. He's been given a mark of 148, which isn't that what JPR1 was running off last weekend. You know, you'd be placing it in an Arkle off 148, so he's already at a level. He's going to get weight, £5 off San Salvador, who'd be the Irish challenge. He wouldn't be the class at all of placing in an Arkle. So while I was quite impressed with Lookaway as well, and Lookaway loves Cheltenham, I think Lada Sud is just a classier type. He was second in the Betfair, second in the county hurdle last year. I just think he's a good 11 to 8 shot. You know, I think it's a match with him and Lookaway. Lookaway is a bit gangly, a bit awkward, not as natural over his fences. I think he'll be better going up slightly in trip. Petit Tonnerre probably out for a spin today. You know, he's getting £20 of difference with Lada Sud. Western Zephyr's going to go from the front and give a nice lead to Lada Sud, and I fully expect him to win this and be going on to the Henry VIII at Sandown then. He looks another good one for the Skeltons.
He does indeed look another good one, and it looks another good Paddy Power Gold Cup. 2:20, the feature race on Saturday afternoon. And, well, it's got a slightly different complexion, this one, gang, because, of course, watered good ground on the old course. They're not going to be hanging about, I think it's fair to say. All three of you, please, give me in a couple of lines your version of the winner of the 2024 Paddy Power Gold Cup. Joe, go.
Can I have more than a couple of lines? Because I just wanted to touch on Ginny's Destiny. Now, obviously, it does look tailor-made for the race, but for me, I think he's going to be better over 3 miles. I think the ground's quick enough. There's only been one winning favourite in the last 12 years. That was Stage Star last year, and I just, because of the day Paul Nicholls had at Wincanton, I think this has just been a bit over bet. The one I prefer is Imagine for Harry Durham. Obviously, bought the horse for €320,000. It's been trained for the race. I think a mark of 145 looks good. Obviously beat Kimya winner, Grade 1 winner. I know the way you're thinking at Fairy House, and followed up at Punchestown. I wouldn't judge him too harshly on that run behind Spillin's Tower. He's fresh. He's going to love the ground. Obviously a 6-year-old, but Garlaw won it when he was a 6-year-old a couple of years ago. You want to carry less than 11 stone in this. 8 of the last 12 have carried less than 11 stone. So I think he ticks plenty of boxes. And I think around he's into 6-1 now. I think he's going to give us a good run for our money.
Good stuff. Cass moving swiftly on. Imagine is Joe's selection. Do you go along with that, or do you rival that?
Well, from the Irish angle, I'd be a bit worried about Imagine because he's struggled to lay up in his races before. And the Paddy Power, now it's a longer trip, so maybe he will be able to lay up. But the Paddy Power is the type of race where you generally want to be handy. Ginny's Destiny is obviously going to go a million from the front and try and cling on a la Stage Star last year. So a little bit worried about Imagine. You know, he was stable switch as well, but 145 definitely could be well handicapped. You can see where Joe's coming from there, and Durham is a dinger at getting him ready. I wanted to back, and this is a bit. Don't you hate tipsters coming on a race with Paddy Power and no bet, like awful stuff? But I wanted to back Strawfan Jack. But the reality is, the protectorate in here, he's effectively £6 out of the handicap. They're not claiming off him. The case for him is easy. Loves Cheltenham. Loves good ground. Like beat Ashtree Meadow over 2 miles at Cheltenham. That's good for him. That horse won a Galway plate, fourth in an Arkle. He's classy enough, and he was third in the plate last year. But look, hands up, can't really back him. Look, if he's 60 on the exchange or 70 or something, I might throw a tenner at him. But I will not be going mad in this race because the one I fancy is out of the handicap. So sorry for the dull answer. I bet Tanya Stevenson, a legend of the game, she'd have something interesting to say.
Well, she's really set something of a high bar, it's fair to say, because if you were with us last weekend on the Race Hour weekend preview, you will know that she didn't just go stomping through the betting jungle. She absolutely destroyed it with 25-1 Al Dancer down at Wincanton in the southwest. My word, what have you cooked up for this weekend's big handicap? Or are you saving your powder till Sunday in the Greatwood? What you got, Tans?
Yeah, something for Sunday as well, big price wise. This race, I think, Ginny's Destiny. But my outsider for the races, like Cass, Strawfan Jack, just 11 of the 26 races been on good ground. And the record of that, 7 of those 11 races, he finished in the top 3. I get where he is on the weights. He just loves good ground. You've got to remember 6 of his 10 chase races have been graded chase races. And if you watch him in that plate, it'll be ideal the way that they're going to power round in that Paddy Power Gold Cup. They're going to go so fast. You've already mentioned Tom, and Strawfan Jack could be running into a frame. He's a silly price at the moment. Hopefully it'll go even bigger because the focus will be attention. And another one that might run on, obviously, it'll be Fugitive if he's quiet. But Strawfan Jack, really and truly, silly price for the class of animal. I appreciate he's out the weights, but that he excels in better races when they run flat out and on good ground. So this is him in the Paddy Power.
Fantastic. I knew you wouldn't let us down, Tanya Stevenson. And at the time we're recording, our sponsors, Betfred, offering 20-1, no less, about Strawfan Jack, a fifth the odds, 4 places for each way players. Tanya, stick with me because the 255 on the Saturday is another tricky one, 3-mile handicap hurdle. What do you like there and why?
Yeah, it's like a kind of a rerun of the race with the Warpack, where the Warpack came through because Gower Road decided to say, right, come on, crack on, we're going to start racing 3 out. This was the October meeting. And he said, come and get me, which indeed the Warpack did, who continued a nice winning sequence, but it sort of drew them all out, and you're really going to have to crack on here. Beacon Edge, who was 5th in that race, came out and won a sort of poor renewal at Wetherby, but he still won Beacon Edge, and that's the key in this. So, me and my big prices, I'm going to have to go for a big grey chaser as such in this race in Hardy Boy. It's at the prices, really. He's had 21 runs on good ground. He's been in the frame in 16 of them, another good ground. He seems to thrive in that race at Cheltenham. He came through. He ran as if he needed it. So approaching in between the second last and the last, he kind of blew up, and then as he popped over the last, he ran on up again up the hill, and looking at the weights between him and Gower Road, it really is a little bit of advantage for him. If I am worried about one, it'll have to be last year's winning trainer, Paul Gilligan's Z-Band, who sort of tried to take it to them last time out at Galway, but just unfortunately there was one sitting lying in wait. But for me, Hardy Boy at the prices, I know he's fully exposed, but he comes into this race with a good mark this time, a mark that he can be competitive at, and he might get in the frame, and he might even go and win it.
So, gang, at home, if you're just furiously trying to scribble these down, Tanya's given us 20-1 Strawfan Jack in the 220 and 14-1 Hardy Boy there in the 255. Now, Cass, Tanya, I know as we sign off on Saturday with a 330, which is an intermediate handicap hurdle over 2 miles and 5 furlongs, both of you have got an opinion. So, Cass, I'm going to give Tanya a rest momentarily and bring you into play, please, for this 330.
Yeah, and if I might, Tom, I might just talk about one in the 255 before I launch into the 330. But there's a horse in that 255, Deep Cave, and he's 66-1, and if he's as good as he looked, like if he's on his day and he's trying and he's back to himself, he'd pick these up and carry them, and he's 66 to 1. So the case for him is he won a Leopardstown maiden Christmas hurdle, went to a grade one after. He was only beaten 4 lengths by Goodland. He then went to grade two Ferryhouse, fourth again. Sold to France then, actually won 2 hurdle races in France. Back now with Christian Williams, still only six, off 130, had a spin around the last day. It looks a complete, out for a spin. So probably again, Christian Williams always targeting something in mind. Maybe it's not Saturday, but I'll definitely be backing him at 66 to 1 and hoping they come from. Deep Cave has loads of ability, probably want a bit of softer ground, but he's just one to bear in mind and definitely watch in the future. Now, to launch into the 330, this is like, I was going through the racing yesterday, and you get a bit jiggy, a bit excited when you see one. And I was having deja vu. Tony Martin, 2 years ago, we were all over unanswered in this race, went and won. This horse is 14 to 1. I'm telling you, any price above 3 to 1, I think, is a big price about this fella. The case for him is classy flat horse. He was second to Alphonse Legrand at Chester. He's rated 91 in the flat. He cost 250 grand when he came from France. Jumps wise, then he had a couple of spins and maiden hurdles, went to Ludlow, won there. And what happened was he went to Ascot in a really good 4-year-old handicap hurdle. And he was going to win that race, I think, after the back of the last at Ascot. He had a bit of a run in and actually got stopped in his run, beating the length into third. Now he's off 111 today. Like, he has to be at least a 120 something horse if he's 91 in the flat. Loves good ground, unusual for an Aga Khan horse. Only slight thing is now we don't know who's jocked up. Sean Bowen was jocked up during the week. He doesn't have a jockey now, so I'll be interested to see what happens. You'd hope you get a top pilot on him because you don't need to claim off him or anything. I think he certainly could be a stone well in. The form is really good of that Ascot race. And look, Tony Martin coming over this time of year. This looks an absolute plunge because the rain is coming next week. This is the only race he can run in and try and win until the spring, basically, because he is a good ground horse. So, yeah, the horse Hansayan in the 330, really fancy him. I think if you get an Anton over 3 to 1, it's a good price.
Well, obviously, these prices are subject to change, and change they will. But at the time you and I are chatting, Cass, Betfred currently offering 4 to 1 about the beast in question. That is Hansayan. We're tight enough for time, given that we normally try and bring you 30 minutes. But Tanya, anything to throw into the mix for this 330 before we switch to Sunday?
Yeah, this is the forecast race, Tom. Hamsian and the other horse in the forecast is Wonderful Eagle, that of Philip Hobbs and Johnson White. Last year, 12 months ago, finished fourth in this very race when they were operating at a strike rate of 3 from 42. Philip Hobbs, Johnson White yards. Well, Philip Hobbs, when he was training on his own licence, placed in this race. He won it in 2019. He placed an additional 7 occasions. So he loves to aim horses at this race, and they're all fair prices. This time around, he's operating the pair of them at 4 from 18 as opposed to 3 from 42. Wonderful Eagle loves to race up with the pace. He'll be in contention. Ideal horse for Hamsian to run off of. So there's the forecast race. Hamsian, Wonderful Eagle.
Straight forecast or reverse?
Reversed.
Good on you. Listen, we're going to switch to Sunday, but just to recap, this is the Race Hour Weekend Preview. And if you're shopping for short price favourites on a whim, you've come to the wrong place, because in conjunction with our sponsors, Betfred and Gambling.com, we are pulling out the big guns on the November meeting weekend at Cheltenham. Names in the frame already. You've heard Strawfan Jack at 20 to 1, Hardy Boy at 14 to 1, Deep Cave at 66 to 1, and even that forecast that Tanya's just given for the 330, Hamsian and Wonderful Eagle. My word, if we get a bit of luck here, there will be some damage done. Let's wing on to the Sunday, because, gang, 145, I love these races. Novices limited handicap chases, they can be tricky, but they're usually a good spectacle. Joe Norris, come in from the cold. We haven't forgotten about you, I promise. If you had a pound or a euro, where would it be going?
Well, this race is obviously quite tricky because at the moment you got Leo de Sud still in there and Lookaway still in there. So them two are going to come out, and you're probably going to have San Salvador go off favourite. I mean, I wouldn't have a strong opinion on this. If I had to pick one, possibly the John Joe horse, that Petit Tonnerre, obviously was second to Imperial Saint. We saw Imperial Saint did last week. at Wincanton. So I just think, Aintree. So I just think that form line might be worth a bet. I've got to be honest, I haven't looked in depth at this race just because of how it's going to cut up.
Yes, indeed. It is tricky, of course, because a couple of days out, we haven't yet got the final fields and declarations for the Sunday. But what we have got is a day absolutely stacked full of potential, which rounds off in terms of the TV action with the Greatwood Handicap Hurdle at 3:30. Before then, Cass, anything catch your eye currently in the 2:20? That's a handicap chase over 2 miles, speed test.
Yeah, I find these 2 mile. I love these 2 mile handicap chases. UK racing, like people are down on jumps racing, but handicap chases in the UK are the best product there is in racing. Especially like the Paddy Power. There won't be a race in Ireland run as good as that, as interesting as that the whole year, if you ask me. Certainly not a handicap. This is another belter. Now all these horses race 150 like Matata. I don't know are they that good. To be honest, it's very tricky. Matata would be the one I thought could turn it around with Calico after the last day. And will give us running, loves good ground, will be handy. So and is a good jumper. So that's what I would like Matana, but I wouldn't have a strong opinion now, to be honest. Great race though.
I'm going to ask all of you about the 3:30, the Greatwood Handicap Hurdle, before we sign off with your naps. But sandwiched in between is a marathon stamina test, nearly 3.5 miles for the handicap chase at 2:55. Any of you, I'll throw it out there, I'll punt it out there, want to put their hand in the air and point out anything you like in the 2:55?
Yeah, well, hopefully a horse that caused me and you and your sister a nightmare last year at Newbury, having backed Atlanta Brave, is going to come to the fore this year. I just felt for Surrey Quest. I was at Ayr on Scottish National Weekend, and it ran an almighty contest at Ayr Surrey Quest, and I think that the ground was suits. A marathon can't be too far for the horse, can he? He just got beaten a nose in that Scottish National, and coming into this contest, the stable are running really well without having lots and lots of winners. They're running into the frame, and with that kind of stamina boost in you, Surrey Quest, it ran so consistently throughout last season. I think it'll be more of the same this season. I should think it'll be heading to try and win the Scottish National this time round.
Yes, indeed. The thorn in our side last December was Surrey Quest in the Mandarin. Team, we're going to sign off Sunday with what is traditionally a fantastic handicap puzzle. Is there value to be had? Have they got it right at the front of the market? Betfred, at the time we're recording, have Dysart Enos, the 11-4 market leader, 5-1 Badet Road, 8-1 Under Control. The same odds of reward about Go Dante, 10-1 bar 4. You'll all get a say. Don't worry about that. Joe, take it away for the Greatwood.
Yeah, so just looking at the trends for the Greatwood, there's been no winning favourites in the last 12 years. Only 2 in the last 12 years of the top 3 in the betting. So, I mean, Dysart Enos could just be a level above these, but obviously coming back from injury, a mark of 131. I think Fergal O'Brien's come out and said he's absolutely delighted with that. So I think they're very hopeful, but everything has a price. I think 3-1. I'd rather have a couple of each way bets. My main each way bet is going to be aware for the Skeltons. I thought that Sandown second was good form. He also lost a shoe that day, so I think you can mark that up. He's going to love the ground. I think they've been looking to nick a nice prize with him. I think his mark of 130 is going to be lenient. They usually go too quick in this, and I think he'd be held up. Like last year, Iberico Lord came through late and won it. You want the trends as well. You want to be aged sort of 4 to 6. 10 of the last 12 have been aged 4 to 6, and 8 of the last 12 have been rated 1, 3, 4 or higher. So I think be aware around 12-1, good each way bet.
Great stuff. Nice each way price there. Cass, how do you see this puzzle in the 3:30 slot on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, well, in terms of the top of the market, Burdett Road is going to have to change his running style over jumps. They said he's going to go from the front, so you'd be a little bit concerned about that because he's not the tidiest jumper ever. And I think that Isardina is a bit of a sticky jumper. Could be thrown in now. Could be thrown in on her beating a Golden Ace. But her hurdles form is nowhere near as good as that. We know she has the ability. But big layoff, I'd be a bit worried about her. I think it's right for a boil over, and could not believe my eyes when I saw a related double with Ham Sayan, because who's in there? Only Royal Way. He's the horse that won at Ascot in that 4-year-old hurdle. Myself, Tony Keenan, and Dermo have been talking on our other podcast, the review podcast, especially in Ireland, how the 4-year-old hurdle form is looking really, really hot. The 4-year-olds last year. Now, Royal Way won that Ascot race. He also won at Ludlow twice last season. And I'm going to give you a quote from Gary Moore's stable tour, right? Listen to this. So he was a very nice horse last year, probably one of the better juvenile hurdlers. He was unlucky as he got balloted out of the Fred Winter. Otherwise, I think he would have won that. So Gary Moore said this horse would have won the Fred Winter. He's in this off. I think he was only raised £4 for winning at Ascot and beating Hamsayan, who we know is the best handicapped horse in the UK and Ireland. You're getting a related double you can do, so you can lose twice. And he's 40-1. So there's a lot to like about Royal Way. I hope he'll be declared. That's the worry here. I don't see why not, though. He'll be absolutely fine in the ground. So Royal Way, bit of a rag, but we often see a boil over this race, and a lot to like on form.
Well, currently Betfred double carpet 33-1 is the price if you want to back Royal Way each way in the big race on Sunday. 33-1. Surely not even you can top that, Tanya Stevenson.
I'm not going for one that's 33-1. I'm going with my heart, a frustrated one at that, with the Emmett Mullins runner Yakovet Cavern, because back at Cheltenham in 2023 when Paul Hennessy trained it, I tipped this up to get in the first 5 in its respective race. It ended up it was a 1,000,000 chance, in fact 300-1 to do that. But if you'd watched its races beforehand, it seemed to have never got put into the races, and then it was as frustrating to see it go on to Punchestown and finish only 20 lengths behind Lossiemouth. This is a horse with immense talent. It suddenly then popped up in the Emmett Mullins stable, and they obviously tried to have a win with it, came second at Galway, and then if you watch it closely in the Cesarewitch, it really didn't get into contention because that just was a mess, that race. It was run right across the track, and Yakovet Cavern was a mess, only beaten 9 lengths in the end by Manxman. Ground, it's not really running its good ground over fences ever, really. So nice to see the good ground there, and considering who's trains it, I think the price is because of who trains it. So, but it's got every chance. It's got so much ability, if only it's able to show it. So Yakovet Cavern, and it'll also have a little bit of an each way on Cracking Rhapsody, should that one declare, because of its good form at Kelso.
14-1 and 25-1 respectively. We're just about all out of time this week on the Race Hour Weekend Preview. However, sponsors Betfred have been generously price boosting some of our pundits' naps. They'll be publicised via our Twitter page, which is @_Race Hour. So as tradition dictates, gang, we're going to sign off with your best bet, or indeed bets, of the Cheltenham November meeting. You've got 3 days to choose from. What's it going to be, Joe Norris?
I'm going to side with Springwell Bay in the Novice Chase. I really think a lot of this horse, I think for him to win as easy as he did the last day, pull in as hard as he did for the race, they seem really confident he's going to come forward from that. I think he's a cut above these. I know Buddy One's not a bad horse, but he makes too many errors. I think if he gets beat here, he's going to end up back hurdling. Highland, I think, was flattered by that win last time, and I don't think Resplendent Grey's good enough. So I think Springwell Bay will win this comfortably.
Springwell Bay, good and early to get Joe off to a winning start in the meeting. Cass, what is the best bet, according to Stephen Cass, over the 3 days?
Well, this will probably be my strongest nap I'll have all season when I'm on here. It's Ham Sayan in the 3:30 at Cheltenham on Saturday for the King, Tony Martin.
So, Springwell Bay, Ham Sayan, and after her 25-1 stunner last Saturday, Tanya, drum roll, please.
Yeah, well, I was going to go for Ham Sayan as well, just because that's my forecast race. But if you don't want us to clash, well, then in the 2:55 at Cheltenham, I'll go each way Hardy Boy.
Absolutely.
Tanya, come on, go in with me. We're the double.
Go on then, I'll go in with you, Ham Sayan, and then I'll do my forecast.
Absolutely magnificent. So the forecast from Tanya, lest we forget, is Ham Sayan and wonderful eagle for the Hubs team. But big mentions there for Hamsai and big mention for Springwell Bay. That's about all from us this week. Good luck with your bets. Enjoy Cheltenham. What a weekend it's going to be. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to the team. See you soon.